Hello, everyone. Today we're joined by Sarah Guller, co-founder of FORTA, a performance beauty brand built for active women. From the fast pace of the demands of private equity to competitive sports, Sarah saw a gap in the beauty industry, products that couldn't keep up with how real women actually live, move, and perform. That insight became FORTA, for the active, makeup designed for movement, built to last through workouts, workdays, travel, nights out, and everything in between. At its core, FORTA sits at the intersection of beauty and performance, focused on confidence, durability, and real-life wear. Sarah is building the brand alongside her former Stanford roommate and co-founder, WNBA player Lexie Hull, currently with the Indiana Fever. Today, we're talking about entrepreneurship, performance, wellness, building a brand from scratch, and what ambitious women need most in today's world. So, Sarah, thank you for joining us. To start us off, who are you, what do you do, and why do you do what you do in your own words?
All right. Well, I, as you mentioned, am one of the co-founders of Forta, and I created the brand with Lexie really born out of a genuine need. I was working in private equity at the time. I spent the last 3 years of my career investing in consumer brands and kind of started to notice this gap in the market for brands really focused on the active woman, right? Like there are celebrity brands, there are influencer brands, there's clean brands, and yet there was nothing really addressing the active woman. And coincidentally, one of my best friends plays in the WNBA, Lexie Hull. She plays on the Indiana Fever. And about 3 years ago, Lexie and I were catching up, and Lexie had been like, "What have you seen? I mean, you're investing in beauty brands. What have you seen? I can't find anything that works for me, especially with, walk-in photos and the tunnel, and they're doing warm-ups before the game." And that was kind of the light bulb moment for us where she was living this need for long-lasting makeup, and I was seeing it from more of like a market validation and investor lens, and we were the perfect duo to do it. And so kind of brought my private equity investing business background to the table, and she brings, the being a huge face of the brand and also having lived and breathed the problem. We've been able to kind of cover all aspects of what we're trying to do with Forta.
Do you feel like you saw it in your industry too? Like you have to look presentable every day as well?
100%. I mean, it's funny because Lexi needs makeup for 2 hours where she's sprinting. So it's like really high intensity activity for a short amount of time. And I was living kind of like the opposite end of the spectrum where I was spending 12, 14, sometimes even 16-hour days at the office, not moving a lot, right? I'm in front of a computer, I'm working. But by the end of, a 2 a.m. workday in private equity, my makeup was off. And as a woman in that field too, there was kind of this pressure to always look good, always look presentable. I mean, I'm sure you've both experienced this, but I remember like between meetings running off to the bathroom and making sure my makeup looks okay, making sure my hair is okay. And it's kind of a bummer because men don't really have that extra layer of worrying about that. They're just
Yeah.
going about their day. And yeah, long-winded way of saying that I'm not playing professional sports, but even I struggle to find makeup that could last.
I think it's such a cool, niche that you guys are playing in, and I think it's so needed, like you mentioned. So I'm excited to try it, and I think, a lot of people will be. Um, I think we wanted to start too with, just kind of taking it back a bit. So, when you look back on your childhood, what was Sarah like? Where were there any, early signs, whether it was, your personality, interests, or ambitions that you had that hinted you might wanna become an entrepreneur one day?
100%. So taking a step back, I grew up in the Bay Area. I stuck here in the Bay Area. I went to Stanford, and it's funny because I don't think I ever, as a kid, was like, I want to grow up and be a CEO. But looking back, there are signs. I am the oldest of three, and there's a 10-year age gap between my siblings and I. So for the first half of my childhood, I was essentially an only child. And because I didn't have, siblings to play with or whatever, someone my age in the house, a lot of my activities were super crafty, super kind of entrepreneurial. I was always wanting to have a lemonade stand or do car washes for the neighborhood. Or I remember at one point, selling fruits from our backyard door to door, which is just silly. But I think it was like, okay, I have nothing to do. I love building things and
Yeah.
being creative. And so in hindsight, I think even when I started Fordham, my parents were like, "That makes a ton of sense. Like, always
Yeah.
wanted to be doing something kind of entrepreneurial. And I've also always loved makeup. I that was, like, probably the number one thing that got me in trouble when I was in elementary school, was going through my mom's makeup and putting it on, and, as a kid, you don't know the brand, so I'd be using her, like, Valentino lipstick, and she'd be like, "You're 6 years old, you need to stop." So it's fun to be building in the space.
I think it's so cool looking back too, because it's like in the moment, people are just like, "Oh, that's Sarah, like, she likes to do that, or she's just having fun," but, like, it is cool how, like, all those just, like, little steps and those little events that happen throughout your childhood kind of are guiding you towards the path that you're meant to be on, so, I think that's really cool, and you mentioned, like, you had your mom there, like, I'm sure she influenced you in terms of, like, getting, like, interested in makeup and, but were there anyone specific who influenced you growing up, and what lessons or role models did you have that helped shape your approach to work and leadership in life today?
Yeah, I hate using the word girl boss, but, like, my mom is an absolute girl boss. And it sounds so silly, but she's a physician, she's a doctor, she's the chief medical officer of a hospital, and she, like, raised me working. Both of my parents were working. She was working night shifts. She was an ER doc for a while, and she would
Wow.
just bring me to, like, there's, like, a little room for ER doctors to nap in, and I would be there while she did her night shifts.
Wow.
And it's kind of crazy because as a kid, like, I thought that was normal. And
Yeah.
then I grew up and I realized, wait, it's actually really hard to balance a full-time job, let alone one where you're saving lives with being a mom. And it's almost like I didn't know anything different. So I just assume, like, okay, like, this is what you do. You get to work and you don't have to, choose.
Yeah.
And I think that shaped me in a lot of ways because I cannot sit still for the life of me. Like, I
Yeah.
remember 2 years ago, I was in between jobs and I had, 3 months off, and everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, you should go travel, like, you should take some time off." And I did. I, like, booked a trip to Europe, and within a week, I was like, "I need to be doing something. I don't know how to relax."
Yeah.
So, she definitely shaped me in that way, and it's a good thing, I think.
I feel like that's the same as Kayla and and me. Can't sit still.
It's
That's my
hard, yeah, it's hard. And also, my dad, like, not in the makeup space, but my dad inspired me in a lot of ways for FORTA because both my parents are immigrants from India, and my dad especially comes from, like, a really impoverished village. Like, they didn't have electricity growing up, he doesn't have a birth certificate, and I feel like in a lot of ways, I kind of won the birth lottery where, like, my first cousins on his side of the family, most of them don't even finish school. A lot of them live in pretty impoverished conditions, and it's kind of like I could have been born into that same life. I'm only, one, I don't know, one gene pool or one family tree leg away. And so I've always felt like because of that privilege, I absolutely cannot sit still because it's like I have so much opportunity and I've
Yeah.
always wanted to, make good of that.
And I think it's so special too when it's somebody like you who has that perspective, who then also coupled with the like motivation and drive to keep moving. Those are the people who actually do good with what they're the privilege that they've been given. So I always love watching people who have that type of perspective.
Yeah, no, thank you. I hope so. And I think even in terms of, like, recognizing that privilege, a huge part of FORTA is giving back. Like, even when I think the day Lexi and I kind of fleshed out the whole idea, we were like, there has to be an impact arm because both of us
Yeah.
really care about recognizing just the privilege we have and even being able to build something like this. And so
Yeah.
we created the FORTA Impact Foundation alongside FORTA. And 1% of all of our proceeds go to this foundation, which essentially
Wow.
just helps kids in underprivileged communities have access to sports programming because we've both seen
Wow.
firsthand how much sports can change your life. So,
Yeah.
really excited about that piece
That's
of the
awesome.
business.
And
That's
did you
so
have a
cool.
sports background too?
I played sports in high school. I did not play in college, but I think even for me, like, just the people skills and the team building, and it's so formative, especially as I was saying, I was an only child for, what, 10 years of my life, and so having sports and being able to form those, like, lifelong memories and connections and learning how to be a team player was probably life-changing.
And then before launching Forta, you spent time in private equity. So what initially drew you to that world after college? And kind of what did that teach you about like your career and just kind of the way that you work?
So actually, when I went to Stanford, I thought I wanted to go into like banking and do the whole like the nitty gritty like movie type Wolf of Wall Street finance that you see. I think I was just intrigued by it. And then as I learned more about finance and the different job opportunities in that world, I loved like the buy side and investing side because you're able to see so many things all at once and you're able to form investment theses. And I think I just found it very intellectual and kind of merging being creative with like the finance world. So found myself on that private equity path. And then I worked at a firm called Summit Partners, which it's so serendipitous. I happened to be on the consumer team. Like, that's just where I got assigned. And I don't like I think it was probably the luckiest thing was for me to get put on that team because it was peak COVID times during that internship and consumer brands were absolutely ripping. People were at home, they were spending more online, and so all these consumer brands are growing super super fast and we got to invest in a lot of them. And I worked on things like Dr. Squatch, which is a men's soap brand, and just all these kind of consumer facing brands that seem niche but taught me so much about the consumer world and what it means to do well as a D2C or e-com brand. And then I spent another couple years at the Chernin Group, which is more of like a sports media and entertainment investment firm, but still focused on consumer. Like TCG's done Barstool Sports and Jory. So it ended up being such a perfect background for Florida. And I wish I could say like I went into it being like, oh, I'm going to go build my consumer brand. But I actually think it was yeah, like fate. Just super lucky and gave me a perfect training.
And I think just like tying it back to even when you were a kid, it's just like those little steps that you say it's like serendipitous, but it's like life working with you to guide you to kind of where you're going. And when was it that you decided to leave? Like, obviously, like private equity can be like a stable path. What made you leave that stable path and gave you like the confidence that you could start something new? And was there like a moment the idea of starting your own thing became like, I just need to do this? And there's like no doubt that this is the path for me?
I think 9 out of 10 people, when we told them about Forta, were like, this is a great side hustle. Like, stay in your cushy private equity job and you should totally do this makeup thing on the side. Like, no one ever said, oh, this is something you should jump into. But we were moving super slowly, right? Lexie and I had this idea back in 2023. And then we were kind of working on it. I'd say we were both kind of half in it. Lexie has the world's most busy schedule with the WNBA. And I was working, as I mentioned, these 14-hour workdays. And so we were moving at snail pace. Nothing was really getting done. And around in like mid 2024, we applied to the L'Oreal New Brands Incubator Program with just an idea. Like two girls and an idea. We didn't have a manufacturer, we didn't even have branding. And somehow we were finalists and they like flew us to Paris. It was super crazy. Like we weren't going to go if Lexie's team didn't like if they kept winning, she wasn't going to anyways. They lose, we go to Paris, we pitch and surprise, like shocker, we don't win because we literally don't have like any products or anything. But we had so much fun. Also, Let's See season had just ended, so we would just like bopped around and whatever. It was fun. But I think that was a big moment for us because we were like, okay, if we can get flown to Paris by L'Oreal, which is this idea on paper, there's something here and we should give it a shot. And so that was kind of, I think, the turning point for us to be really serious about it. And then about a year later, I quit because I think with these things, like you either have to be all in or not. And I hate, I don't know if I can swear on here, but like I hate half-assing things. I hated being like, oh, I don't know if this is like my best work for everything we were doing. And that feeling of, yeah, not putting my best foot forward was starting to haunt me. And so it made leaving pretty easy because I was more excited to work on Forta when I got home than I was to go into the office. And that's when I was like, okay, it's time to go full time.
Did you have any patients though? Like if you had like an angel and a devil on your shoulder?
I still have like a devil on my shoulder. Like there are days, candidly, where I'm like, shoot, like I miss getting a really fat paycheck. And it's
It's
hard. It really is hard because it's also, especially at this time of life, you start to see like some of your friends start to really progress in their careers and they're making VP and they're getting promoted. And there are days where I feel like, "Oh my gosh, am I moving backwards?" But I think you just have to shake those doubts. Like, at the end of the day, I love FORTA, I love building, I'm excited about where we're going, and yeah, sometimes you have to go slow to go fast is what I tell myself, and
Yeah.
we're excited, and I think just the fact that I get to wake up and be excited about what I'm doing is so much better than, doing something I wasn't really fully enjoying anymore for the sake of stability in that moment.
There's
Definitely.
this concept of life and how it's very long and it is like a marathon, but at the same time it's short, like, it can be taken from you, so the fact of having that view, like, every day you wake up, you wanna be excited, even if it's hard, you wanna be excited on what you're working towards, so I have a lot of respect for your decision, so we're team Forta.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you. Yeah, I mean, I remember I saw this thing on YouTube, and I wish I it was like a YouTube short, and it was this guy being like, I don't know, he was like, "You only get one shot in life. Like, this is the time to do it, I guess, where I'm
Yeah.
young, I don't have kids, it's not like people are relying on me financially." And the idea of being on my deathbed, having worked, let's say I do the corporate rat race and I do private equity for my whole life, and then I'm dying, and I'm like, wow, I never did something that I was actually passionate about. That really scared me. And I had
Mhm.
this wake up call of like, okay, if I'm going to do it, I should do it now. And if it doesn't work out, I could live with that. I don't think I could live with the idea of like a big what if looming over my head.
Totally. And I think whether it's entrepreneurship or anything in life, I feel like all people have that question, like, am I on the right path? Like, am I going the right place? And I think the people who don't question it, they just kind of get to the end of their life and they're like, wait, did I do anything? So I think it's important, just like the concept of questioning what you're doing, whether it is entrepreneurship or if you're just a person figuring out what the next stop is or the next role is or the next career path is. I think just questioning what is it that truly makes me happy and what is going to leave me at the end of my life feeling fulfilled is just like a really important practice.
And we also wanted to get more into the brand itself because we wanna talk about what you're building, so I explained it in my intro, but what in your own words, what is Forta? And at its core, what is it to you beyond just the product?
Forta is a makeup brand for active women. So all of our makeup products are long wear, sweat proof, built for motion, tested on professional athletes. And the idea is that if it's working for a pro athlete or Olympian, it'll work for you going to drinks with your friends or going to an outdoor wedding or even going to Pilates. And it, it is a makeup brand, but for us, for Lexi and I, we kind of view it as a movement in a lot of ways because traditionally a lot of these makeup brands kind of push the notion that you're wearing makeup for a still picture perfect moment, whether it's a photo shoot or a model on a billboard. Like there's very little at the intersection of movement and performance and beauty. And our whole motto is that you don't have to sit still to look pretty. And I think for us, the most exciting part is like creating this new psychology around makeup being something that you can wear while you're being busy or active. And it's funny, Lexi will get some heat sometimes for wearing makeup while she plays. And she's brought up that I don't know, she's brought up that her whole life, people would say like, why do you need a full face of makeup on the court? And I think that's so interesting because it's almost like people think like beauty and performance need to exist separately when that shouldn't be the case. I mean, I think even to my own life and working in finance, if girls did wear a ton of makeup, there was kind of some like, "Oh, like, who are you trying to impress? Like, it's just the office?" Or that happens even in, high school. And I think that whole notion is super outdated. Like, women should be able to wear makeup for themselves. I'm a huge believer in the notion of, like, look good, feel good, play good, or work good, or whatever that third part is to you. And for me, like, I just feel my best when I have, some mascara on and some lip balm. Like, that's just me, and I think we really wanna fight that notion. And the other part of it too is growing up, I feel like a lot of female role models are like celebrities or an actress or someone who's, you know, kind of existing for like the purpose of looking great. And now my 16-year-old sister, her biggest role model is someone like Lexi, who's playing in the WNBA, who's excelling at sports. And I feel like there's such a shift, especially with what's going on in the WNBA, of little girls having role models who are doing more than just looking pretty. Like they're also, building a brand or they're doing great at sports, and that's so important to us, and we really want to capture that with FORTA's ethos.
Yeah, and that reminds me, actually, I was listening to Bobby Brown, who like tells her story. I wonder if was she ever a role model? Like, did you listen to any of her podcasts or anything?
I have
Being
not, but I keep seeing Jones Road, and I'm excited to see. I mean, she's amazing. I think it'll be incredible.
Yeah, I think her stories are cool to hear too. I actually wear her makeup. I wear the Jones Road. I started a year ago, but she talked about like when she entered the beauty industry, she saw something. She just didn't want it to look like a cake face of makeup. So what she does now is very natural. So I think it's cool that you found something that was missing and you're creating. And I think it's a space that's going to expand a lot just as health and wellness continues to grow and people continue to prioritize that. Do you, when you were entering, were you thinking of like any competitors? Did you see any competitors? Did you feel like you stand alone? And also, what would you call the category that you entered in?
So we call it performance cosmetics. And in a lot of ways, we think Forta is creating that category. I think that's why we're so excited is it's not just a brand, it's in a lot of ways a category. And that category has existed in other industries for years. Like you look at beverages, you have Gatorade, which emerged as a drink for high endurance athletes or high performance athletes. And now it's in everyone's fridge. It's a hangover drink, it's mainstream. Same thing with snacks. You've got the Cliff Bar, which originally was a snack for heavy duty climbers and like, yeah, boulders. And now it's, a lot of kids' favorite snack. Same thing with clothing. You've got the Aloes and Lululemons of the world, which 20 years ago, that was, activewear, something you wear while you're working out. And now I wear my leggings to go to Safeway. I wear them to do my meetings for the day. Like these things that start as performance focused are trickling down to mainstream. And we haven't seen that happen in makeup, which is the whole point of Forta is like, yes, it works for these active women, but it really works for everyone, whether it's a Pilates, the Pilates princess or the working mom, like so many women are active. Yeah, so it's funny. We like before we launched, I swear, every couple months we would see a makeup brand do a campaign with a female athlete, and it really scared us. Like one of our good friends from college, Cameron Brink, is a big name in basketball, and she did this campaign with I'm forgetting if it was Urban Decay or Maybelline. I don't know. She did a campaign with a big legacy makeup brand, and we were like, "Oh my gosh, this is terrible! Like these other makeup brands are beating us to the punch." And then it kept happening with, different athletes, different women. And then we realized it's actually just validating our thesis that
Yeah.
merging beauty and sports is super impactful in messaging and marketing. And it's one thing for a brand to, stick Cameron's face on a campaign for a month or pay someone a bunch of money to promote one product versus starting the brand from that authentic point of view and having Lexie be a co-founder, not just, a face for a marketing campaign
Yeah.
is the differentiator. And now when we see that, we're like, good. It's just validating what we're trying to do. And I think people see through that too. Like no one's thinking of Maybelline as the brand for active women. So it
Yeah.
scares, it used to scare us. And now it's just, I think, part
Yeah.
of building in a saturated space.
I think that's such a good point too. It's different when you just see an image of an athlete wearing some sort of like makeup product versus like you said, like this product is being developed by an athlete themselves. So it's like in real time, she's understanding like what works, what doesn't work, what she needs on the court, and like having you two there to kind of make it and evolve the product for the athlete versus just like an athlete wearing a product that's already made is such a differentiator. But another question we had was what was the hardest part from like going from that idea that you guys had to actually like executing on it, and like what did that look like?
So manufacturing is the bane of our existence. Like it is so hard to work with these manufacturers because you end up needing a lot of different vendors. And without getting too into the nitty gritty, like at times we would be managing communication with 6 different suppliers and manufacturers for bottle components versus the formula versus the carton your product comes in. And I think it was just a lot of kind of learning how to manage all of that. Um, and then also just being patient on the formula. Like we spent 2 years on the setting spray formula because we were like, we're going to launch with one product. It has to be perfect. It has to last a WNBA game. And our first like 30 samples we got, just didn't do that. And I would try the sample. It would work for me while I went to solid core, and I'd be like, amazing, like, Lexie, let's launch tomorrow. Perfect. And she'd be like, Sarah, it didn't last 2 seconds for me because she's studying and she's actually like working out, like, you know, at a way different level. But we had kind of promised ourselves that if it doesn't work for Lexie, we're not going to bring it to market because she's kind of like the highest test in terms of sweating and motion and activeness. So it took us, 2 years of going back to the lab, trying to do different ingredients, and there were times where we were like, "Maybe you just can't." Like, maybe there is no way to make a setting spray that can last without, breaking you out or making you sensitive. There were probably 1,000, there were times Lexie would send me a picture and her face was red and puffy, and she was like, "It did work, like, it kept my makeup on, but I'm really itchy," and so it was
Lexie having to test her skin on
I know. She went through a lot. I'm grateful that she yeah,
was really
um, it's so fun. I need to, like, find that picture. I was saying we should use it for content.
yeah.
But, yeah, no animal testing, but tons of Lexie testing, and in the end, we, like, finally got there, and towards the end, I'd say, like, the last 5 or 6 samples, we were like, "Okay, we are getting somewhere." Like, it's getting closer, and that gave us hope. And then we realized that the formula worked, but it had this consistency that made it hard to spray. And so the spray would come out really splotchy. And then we spent another 6 months trying to find the sprayer. So just being patient was like the biggest challenge, I think, because
Yeah,
we're so excited to bring this to life. And the truth is that manufacturing is a very slow process.
totally.
When do you feel like you were like, "Okay, we're we're ready? Because I feel like it's all this build up, and I'm sure there were times, like you said, like, I wanna do it now," but you had to be patient. And I know probably once you found the formula, but what about, like, the actual, like, leap of doing it?
Yeah, so the formula was done, and then we spent more time on the packaging components. And I think we were kind of like antsy, but I'd say getting the formula ready was like the biggest bottleneck. And
Mhm.
by then we were super antsy because we had our branding ready to go. We had been growing our socials that whole time of really cultivating a community of active women, which at the time was like accidental because we started our Instagram and TikTok and we were like, let's start posting because our setting spray is going to launch soon. Setting spray doesn't launch soon, but it ended up giving us, a year and a half to just grow the community, which at the time felt like, oh, it sucks that we don't have anything to bring these people. But looking back, it was actually really great because by the time we launched, we had all these women who knew who we were, knew what we were building, were excited. And so now I always tell friends who are, starting a brand or becoming founders, I'm like, actually, you should spend a lot of time building your community because that ended up being a huge advantage for us.
Mhm.
And then also, did you, because you had that all that time at the beginning where you were just, like, testing, and did you guys bootstrap it, or did you guys start with, like, investors, or and what does that, like, process look like?
We initially bootstrapped it, so our first couple POs and payments were just out of Lexi and I's savings, which were really scary, especially for, I think, just how young we are. We were kinda like, "Oh my gosh, this is a lot." And then as we started to get more traction, with getting into the L'Oreal program and starting to tease the brand on socials, we ended up getting some inbound interest from people who stumbled upon the brand and were like, "Hey, I love this. Like, how can I support?" And with how expensive these purchase orders are, we realized it was probably smart to bring in some money. So we raised a small, like, friends and family round, nothing institutional. I think because I come from the private equity and investing world, I've seen how just how tense it can be to work with institutional investors before you're
Yeah.
ready. So we very intentionally raised from family offices, other athletes, our families, our friends, and raised enough to kind of give us this first, call it 6 to 9 months of runway. Um, and yeah, I think that was scary too because we were like, do we want to give up equity? Do we want to take all the risk on ourselves? And ultimately landed on the idea that, like, we'd rather have a smaller piece of something huge and build something really impactful and build a brand that kind of changes the industry than, maybe own 100% of it, but not get very far just because of all those capital constraints.
That makes sense. And when you had that first round of capital, like, how did you think about, like, prioritizing where you spend it?
So we actually kind of naturally fell into mostly product development
Yeah.
because these products are promising so much. It takes a really long time and a lot of money to get there. And yeah, I'd say like 80% of our funds go into R&D and testing different formulas and ordering different ingredients to make things work the way we want them to. And then on
Mhm.
marketing, candidly, I mean, we've really just focused on being as organic as possible.
Yeah.
I'll test some ads here and there, but I think the beauty of having Lexie and her platform, and then also all the athletes who have organically gravitated towards the brand,
Yeah.
is not having to spend a ton of money on marketing yet.
Yeah.
Obviously, for long-term growth, that'll be like a huge bucket of spend, but
Yeah.
right now we're just kind of riding out the organic wave, and it's been amazing. I mean, we do a lot of gifting. Like we seeded the product to the entire WNBA. We've seeded the product to all of the women in Lexie's network, and we've gotten social media coverage from like Jeannie Bouchard, who's incredible in the tennis world. We've gotten posts from Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham. It's been interesting how many audiences we didn't like originally think of have found the brand. For example, nurses. Like we've had
Yeah.
hundreds of
Oh, yeah.
nurses
Wow.
like, oh, I'm on my feet for 10-hour shifts and I'm sweating and I want to look good. And it's just so fascinating when we find women like that who we're so glad the brand is resonating with them. So
Yeah.
we've only been around for 2 months and kind of seeing what we can do organically. I do a lot of, storytelling on social media. Lexi does a lot, obviously, with her platform, and we're excited to see where that part takes us on its own.
And if like another question on your business decisions in terms of product, why did you start to choose with the lock and go spray? And then do you have a lineup coming next if you're allowed to share? You don't have to be specific, but kind of what went into your thought process.
The setting spray was our first product for 2 reasons. One is it's clear, meaning there's no shades required, and we wanted this to be a super inclusive brand. And I think just recognizing just how diverse skin tones are, it didn't make sense to launch with, like a foundation or a concealer where there was no way at this stage we'd be able to cover all of those shades. So we figured setting spray made sense. Everyone can use it. Even if you're not, glam girl or maybe you're more of a natural type, it's a product that is in most people's makeup bags and you don't have to teach them how to use it. So that was kind of the first part. And then the second was just sheer testability of something like that. Given that Forta is focused on long wear and being built for motion, we figured what better way to prove that than with a setting spray, because you could have the best makeup routine in the world, but if your setting spray isn't working, your makeup's going to separate, it's going to cake. And we wanted people to see that Forta difference. And setting spray, is an easy way to test that. So that was the reasoning behind that. And then in terms of next products, we have something for the lips coming out in July, which will be our first foray into kind of color and pigment, which we're excited about, and then something for the eyes in September. So stay
That's
tuned.
exciting.
I
That's
also
awesome.
wonder, like, how did you brainstorm all this while you were still working? Where did you find the time? Because you're so
I don't
thoughtful
sleep.
about your decisions. You don't sleep. Okay,
I
that's
don't it's yeah, it's definitely I don't sleep and Lexi doesn't sleep either. Like she's on East Coast and she'll text me. It'll be, 1 AM my time, and I'm like, "Miss Girl, you have, like, practice tomorrow." What do you But we were roommates in college, and I think we both know that about each other, like, neither one of us slept in college either. I feel like we were always up, studying or being social, or she was at basketball, and I think we both have that, like, extreme hustle, like, inability to sit down,
Yeah.
which I think we actually kinda need to figure out because we don't ever really rest, and it's funny, I feel like I joke that I went from working a 9 to 9 to actually just working 24/7, like, I'm working more,
Yeah.
but it's hard to know when to turn off because it is, like, it's our baby, like, there's nothing we'd rather be doing or thinking about, and it'll eat into, weekends and evenings, and it's hard to know when to shut your laptop down and be done for the day. So definitely something that we try to be, conscientious about. Or Lexi will text me like, I'm going on a date night with Will, her fiance, and I'm like, do not text me, like, do not email me, do not check any devices, like, go to dinner, because otherwise, like, yeah, we're both just always on.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting conversation too, especially being a passionate founder, just balancing your brand vision and like wanting to be excited, but also wanting to make it sustainable. To our point earlier in the conversation. So also, what does success look like to you with Forta in like 3 to 5 years? Do you have a vision?
We've talked about this before. I think the ultimate definition of success is going to be Forta not just being where you find makeup usually, but being in places where active women exist, because that's a place where makeup products aren't available. And that's kind of the whole reason we created Forta. And what I mean by that is like, yes, the dream is for Forta to be in the Sephoras and Ultas of the world, but really we think of this as a brand that should exist at the Athletas and the Equinoxes of the world and places where women are being active and busy, which is exciting because we actually have our first Equinox pop-up today, this
Oh, that's
afternoon,
awesome.
which will be really exciting. So it'll be our first time working with the Equinox team just at one location, but we're really excited about that. And I think, as a long-term partnership, that kind of thing, I think would just be transformative for the makeup industry, going
Yeah.
back to like this notion of wanting women to not feel like they have to choose between performance and beauty is our ultimate goal. And so the dream is to be at those kind of unique places in a few years from now.
I love that idea. It's crazy just to think, like, I think about just checking out at, like, an Athleta or a Lululemon, and they have all the different things at the front aisles, and it's like, why isn't there something that all these women who are checking out have put makeup, like, not everyone, but most of them put makeup on, so why aren't there things in that space in those locations? So, I think
Totally.
it's so interesting and such a niche and important space to be working in.
And we did like an Athleta partnership about a month ago. We did a gift with purchase program at two
Yeah.
of their flagship stores. So customers who bought, athleisure from Athleta would get a free Forta Lock and Go spray with their order. And it
Oh,
was
that's
so
awesome.
exciting just to see like the product in that environment. It made
Yeah.
so much sense. I was like, this is where Forta belongs. So
Yeah. That's
excited.
awesome. It's so cool. One question I had was, like, how has Forta, like, building Forta changed how you see yourself as a person?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would say the biggest thing is just seeing how creative I, like, still can be and want to be. Like, I
Mhm.
feel like as a kid, I was super creative, I loved art, and I loved drawing, and then you go to college and you do a corporate job, and there's, like, very little room for that kind of creativity, and I kinda just assumed that was growing up and getting older. But now that I'm wearing so many hats at Forta, I'm working on, what does our branding look like? How do we wanna design this carton? How do we want this, and that in a brand activation or pop-up to look like, and I love it. Like, it's so fun, and it's made me realize that I absolutely do still have that creative streak and, like, yearn to kind of let out that creativity in a way that I think regardless of, where Florida is, I think just moving forward in my life, I wanna make sure that I'm carving out room for that because it
Yeah.
does just energize me, and it's such a
Yeah.
great part of building Florida.
And what has surprised you the most about being a founder?
Ooh. I think it's what I was saying earlier about you actually just work more than you ever think you would. Like,
Yeah.
I have friends who are like, "Oh, I hate working a 9 to 5," and I'm like, "You're gonna work a 9 to 9 the next day." Like, it's just never ending, and I think that originally I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna move from this structured private equity job. I'm gonna be a founder, and I'm gonna have control of my schedule, and I, won't have to miss birthdays anymore to work." And it's like, no, you actually miss way more because it's like raising a child, like, especially at this stage, you can't it's Lexie and I, we have a amazing head of social, but between the 3 of us, it's a lot of work, and so I've been surprised by, like, not just how much work it is, but, like, how hard it is to, like, make those boundaries, I would
Yeah.
say. And I feel like it's a side of entrepreneurship that people don't talk about,
Yeah.
where I think it's really easy to, like, even get burnt out as a founder because you are always on, and so, as I mentioned, we're trying to kind of figure out, like, how do you create work-life balance in your own business? Because I would never wanna get burnt out, and, like, we were only 2 months in, but at this rate, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I don't sleep or eat. I should probably I should
Yeah.
probably find a way to, slow down and focus on like the long-term sustainability.
But do you feel like it is work when you're doing it? I think that's sometimes the difficult part is yeah, exactly. So you feel like you're just
Not at
passionate.
all. It's so fun. I mean, it's literally, like, so fun, and don't get me wrong, like, there are parts of it where I'm sitting in Excel and I'm like, "This is not fun," but for the most part, like, it doesn't feel like work. Truly, like, I'll work all day, I'll look at the clock, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, it's 7 PM. I'm having so much fun." We're mapping out, what our next few products are. I'm swatching different lipsticks, like,
Right.
it's truly, like, so fun. So yeah, I think that's hard because it's hard to feel like you're working when you're having fun.
That's great. And I think also just like you're saying, it's like, what is that like work life balance for yourself? But then when you're working with your co-founder and your head of social marketing or social media, how does that look for each of you are individuals who require differences, and you guys are all working on this like big project together, and there's a lot of work that goes to it. So it's also like communication of kind of what works as a team. So not only for yourself but as a team, and having those communications. And I'm sure that there are, beyond just the like work life balance, there's also probably other tough conversations to have with your co-founder or with people that you're working with. And are there ways that you've kind of navigated those harder conversations?
Yeah, it's funny you ask. I mean, I think back to like the working 25/7, part of it is that my co-founder is like one of my best friends, and so we're always texting each other. We're always there's no like if she's calling me at 2 in the morning, neither one of us is batting an eye because, it's like it's just Lexie, like, of course I'm gonna pick up.
Yeah.
Versus I think when you're in, like, a corporate work setting, there's a notion of, like, "Oh, I don't wanna bother this person at this time," or, like, "No one's gonna check their text at 10 PM," and it's hard because we are so close, there's no sense of, like, those guardrails, which
Yeah.
I think is good. Like, I think it's allowed us to move so fast right now, but long term needs to get sorted out. And then for harder conversations, yeah, I mean, the minute you mix business with friendship, like, there are things you have to talk about, like equity and money and responsibilities, and I think there's just a lot of trust and love between us where, like, those conversations happen pretty naturally. Um, I think it's, like, an awkward thing to talk about money with someone you're so close with,
Yeah.
but ultimately, there's, like, a lot of trust. Like, our first couple years, we didn't have any, like, candidly, we did not, like, hire a lawyer as soon as we should have, and so we were kind of, like, winging it. We didn't have any contracts or agreements signed, and obviously, when we raised money, that's when our investors were like, "Guys, you need, like, legal paperwork for this kind of thing," so got that sorted out, but the beauty of starting a brand with your best friend is that there's enough love and trust that you can, hit the ground running and trust that the other person's leaning in, and then also, like, trust in each other enough to be honest. Like, that's been
Yeah.
our biggest advantage, I think, is there are days where Lexi will be like, "That's a terrible idea. Like, we're not doing that."
Yeah.
And then there are days where I'm like, "Lexi, like, you live in this world of, especially when it comes to, like, sponsorships and influencers, she sees a totally different side of that than I do because she's getting those brand deals." And I'll be like, "No, like, we're not doing this. This is crazy." And we have thick skin, like, no one's gonna get their feelings hurt,
Yeah.
and it's fun. It makes things so fun. Like, we do a lot of in-person travel for a lot of our events and pop-ups and launches, and we literally will, like, every time we're like, "How is this a work trip? How
Yeah.
are we expensing it?" Like, we just ordered I don't know, last week I was in LA, we were there for, a pop-up, and we ordered, like, an Oreo milkshake and expensed it at midnight watching a movie, and I was like, "How is this a work trip?" Like, we're literally eating this Oreo milkshake while watching a movie at midnight, and
That's
it's
awesome.
work, and we're making content, and honestly, that
Yeah.
content's, like, making for a viral TikTok, which is helping the brand, so it's all, like,
Exactly. And when you're doing what you love, you just can't,
all
it
comes
does,
together.
it's hard to think of it as work. So,
And the way that
um,
social media is such a driver of business now, it's insane to think about that. Like, yeah, you guys taking a reel together
It
at
is
makes a
crazy.
difference.
We, like, in the beginning so we did this whole big, like, launch photo shoot, we had all these picture perfect stills, and, like, they did okay, like, that was our kind of our first, social media strategy was using all the campaign and launch content,
Hmm.
and then we started to run out, so we started just, like, posting TikToks, like, if I was talking or if I was behind the scenes building the brand, and those took off. Like those went viral. And so now we've really doubled down on just organic founder storytelling. And every time we're together, like we'll block out an hour just to make content. And it feels so silly and it's so funny. And I feel like all of our friends and family are like, what are you guys doing? Like, this doesn't work. But it is like the biggest driver of the business. So it's
Yeah.
interesting how social media plays a
And
role.
it's cheap. You can tell them you're building a brand.
Exactly. Yeah,
cute.
it's great. It's great.
Was it hard to find kind of like your persona in that space, or did it come naturally to you?
Not at all for me. It's funny because Lexie's so good in front of a camera. Like she does that for a living, and she speaks to reporters, and she's probably media trained. Like she's very good with that, and I am not. Like I am such a dry humor, sarcastic, like off the cuff girl. That our first few like things we had to do, I was like, I can't watch this. Like I'm cringing myself out. It's so fun. We did like there's a account called People Brands and Things on Instagram, and they'll feature like new brands, and they were like, "Oh, can you guys film a video and send it to us?" And the whole time I'm like nonverbal. I'm like eating a snack and the side of it's like the whole thing is just such a shit show, and I've had to learn like how do you act in front of the camera, and it's funny because it doesn't come naturally to me, and I never thought like I think when we started the brand, I was like, okay, Lexie will be like public facing and I'll be more, taking the back seat. But we've learned that people like really like the kind of roommates to co-founders storyline and
Yeah.
they like seeing that dynamic. And so she's always trying to get me to be in more content and I'm learning.
Yeah. No, it's great. And it's like any person, like even if it doesn't come natural to you, like the more you do it, it's almost just like by being you that comes out and people seeing you, like you don't have to change who you are in front of the camera. You just have to get more comfortable with being in front of the camera. And then
Totally.
people love to see that and love seeing somebody being authentically themselves, whether that's the person who's loving to be on the camera or if it's the person who doesn't obviously love to be on the camera, but is there and is being themselves. So
100%. Our most viral video, it's so funny, is this, I'll send it to you guys. It's this video where like we just start giggling. Like I'm being socially awkward on the camera. Lexie starts laughing. I start going nonverbal and we posted it of like I think our head of social posted it as like trying to film a video, but your co-founders are besties, whatever. And people loved it. Like people were just like,
totally.
you guys have such a cute dynamic. Like Sarah's
Yeah.
kind of shy, like whatever. But I think,
Yeah.
yeah, I wasn't acting and people like the like authenticity because there's so many makeup brands and there's so many like picture perfect campaigns that I think people appreciate the genuine side of it.
Yeah,
Totally.
I was gonna say it's so much more than a product. It's who's actually building like the behind the scenes behind it. We also touched on the well-being part a little bit, which it sounds like you don't sleep. But if you do want to make it more sustainable over time, are there things that you're thinking of setting those boundaries or anything? Also, if you do get in times where you feel like you're working a lot and you might get overwhelmed, anything that pulls you back in or helps you reset?
Yeah, no, jokes aside, actually, like health and wellness is super important to me. And so one of the best things about controlling my schedule is I can make it to solid core or workout every single day. I live in San Francisco. It's like the most walkable, beautiful city. And so I will make a point to either walk or run every day and just like get the oxygen, get the steps in because I think like if you're not taking care of your body, it doesn't matter, how well Ford is doing or what's going on with the brand. Like I need to be healthy and in my best headspace. So that part is super important to me. And then also like something I love about my transition from corporate to founder is I can cook my own meals now. And I'm such a like I'm a huge that could be like another hour-long podcast. I'm like a huge freak about eating whole foods and no seed oils and like all of that. And so being able to like make all 3 meals of the day, know what's
Yeah.
going into my body has been like literally my favorite thing about working for myself.
If something that might help getting a walking pad because I feel like it's so especially if you're working so much, like trying to find ways to save time in your day. So if you can get some steps in
I
while you're
agree. It's gonna be on my Christmas list for
like,
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I know Maggie got one and I'm like, now I'm tempted.
You like
I
it?
need to add this.
so I love it because you don't go that fast, and then I just feel like I can work Like, I can work so much longer, and then I can also just rest. I have time to rest during the day because I'm like, this is the time I would have been going on a walk, so I can just take a nap for, like, 4 hours.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do
I'm all about
you Can you do it on a Zoom call? Like, does it look like you're bouncing around?
so I don't, because that's just personal preference. I'm like, I don't wanna be on a Zoom call
Yeah.
bouncing up and down, but definitely, like, when I'm doing work, slowly moving. I was telling Kayla, I'm not going, like, 4 miles per
Yeah.
hour, high threes, just slow pace. But that's
So
It's
what's
a
funny.
good
No,
addition.
definitely.
but Kayla, do you wanna wrap it up with our
Yeah.
last question?
So I think you've gone from being like a high achieving student and professional to building your own company. How has your definition of success evolved over the years, and what motivates you today compared to earlier stages of your career?
I think growing up growing up in, like, a traditional Indian household, like, there was definitely the standard to, do well in school, be good at school, be good at everything you do, and then that got further reinforced at a place like Stanford where everyone's, like, changing the world truly, like, people are just doing such cool things, and then I fell into this job that was perceived as very prestigious and high achieving, and I realized a couple years into that, like, on paper, this is amazing, and I liked it, but I didn't love it, and the fact that I was waking up, like, not energized to go into work was a huge wake-up call for me, and I think somewhere along there, I realized that success is really about, like, being happy with your life. Like, that's just
Yeah.
what more could you ask for? And I knew that if I were to go do something I'm passionate about, build this thing with my best friend alongside that I'm excited about, that would bring me, like, joy. And I think it's proven to be true. Like, I wake up and I'm excited to hit the desk. I'm excited to go hop on a plane to go to our next event. And just having that excitement to me has been, like, so fulfilling. And hard. It's hard to, like, trade in the stability of a job and a path for that, but it's been super rewarding.
I think that's a great answer. That is awesome. I think Maggie and I have lots of conversations around that, and I think we are
We
totally aligned with that.
Our podcast on that.
Yeah. But that's great. And then our final question for you is, who would you like to nominate to share their story on Core?
Oh my gosh. Let's see. Okay. Have you guys heard of Goldilocks before?
What
Like
yeah, what is it?
vaguely.
It's canned cocktails that are better for you,
Okay.
and it was started by my friend Erin. She's incredible, and she does it all on her own, and she's just,
Wow.
like, the scrappiest founder I know,
So
so I
yeah.
think you would really enjoy chatting with her.